Yes, guys, welcome back to another episode of Teams Like Brighton. And boy, do I have a big smile on my face, everyone. Yes, we got a double over Chelsea, and safe to say, Richie, it is fully deserved.
Yes, 100%. We were just talking off air how it felt like it was going to be deja vu from the Tottenham loss where nothing went Brighton's way. When Chelsea, I'd say undeservedly, took the lead, off a hefty deflection from off Lewis Dunk, looped past Robert Sanchez, and you're thinking, oh God, not this again, not another horrible day in North London. Or sorry, not North London, in London, let's say. But it's West London. Credit to Brighton. They bounced back really, really well. And just to make push the point further, it did seem as if the gods weren't smiling on Brighton, because within the first half, 40 minutes or so, Brighton had lost Joel Veltman to injury and then Evan Ferguson to injury. So you're like, this is just not fair. This is just cruel. But they've got an indomitable spirit at Brighton that's been harnessed by Roberto De Zerbi. And in short, in every single facet of the game, Brighton were better than Chelsea. There is maybe the only player who was better from Chelsea was Kepa, because he made some unbelievable saves to keep them out. But even then, it was just domination pretty much from start to finish. Chelsea were a disjointed team of gazillionaires, and Brighton are a wonderfully crafted, hidden gem hotbed of talent. It's just night and day. I mean, 57. I think until the last 10 minutes or so, when Brighton sort of sat back a little bit and didn't quite do what they were doing earlier in the game. Brighton had around 70% possession. At the end of the game, they also had 26 shots to Chelsea's 8, 10 shots on targets to Chelsea's 2. Just man for man, they were better in every single way. It was a complete domination, and the first ever win for Brighton at Stamford Bridge. It was a really, really strong performance. We'll get onto individuals a little bit later, Tom, but yeah, this was a fully deserved win and a great way to bounce back from that heartbreaking and very controversial loss to Tottenham last weekend.
Yeah, absolutely. And just overall as a team performance, it was just fantastic to watch. Like you say, we went a goal down by the flukiest of goals. Really, it's so unlucky, and I don't know what it is with us and conceded deflected goals, but the deflections always seem to come from Lewis Dunk. And you could just see from the look on his face that he is more annoyed than anyone else from the Brighton end to concede it in that way. And it's not even his fault. He did everything he could there. Sanchez was just so unlucky, because you could see the ball was going to his left and he's just about to get ready to dive in. And when you're in that motion as a goalkeeper, it's so hard to stop and then kind of get yourself back on your feet and then dive the other way. And by the time you get there, it's almost, as you saw there, it was too late, too little too late. And he was so close to actually get a hand to it. It would have been really impressive if Sanchez got a hand on the ball. Then you just look at the overall pressure, and you just have to look at the highlights. It's constantly Brighton, time and time again, just putting the pressure in. Matoma just made the defense look absolutely silly. He was just dancing around them. You had Ferguson, who before his injury was just opening up the spaces so easily with just the slightest of touches. So when you saw the way he controlled the ball outside the box, pushes the ball one end and then looks for the curling effort to go and hit, which hits the bar. You can see that this guy is just it's absolutely unfair that this 18-year-old is so intelligent on the ball, and I'm absolutely gutted for him that he's injured. He's out for at least a couple of weeks now, which means he's out of the FA Cup, which is such a sad shame. And then you look at Joel Veltman, who has just been ever reliable, just an absolute machine of a player. 100 plus appearances for us now, and losing him, and with no Lamptey in that mix now as well, we're looking a little bit nervous there on the right hand side. But we still put in a very accomplished performance. You look at how we still plays in the second half as well. And Enciso was just that something's clicks with him now. Now that he got that goal against Bournemouth, it just clicks with him in that match. Where he was playing out on the wing, he wasn't afraid to take on. He took on Reece James and made him look amateurish, really, I thought. And Reece James is the best wing back in the Premier League by a country mile. There's no denying that. But I think Reece James was compensating a lot for what Chalobah was trying to do. And I don't think they really had a good shift, especially with either Enciso or Matoma in that match. They just neither of them had an answer for them. And then Enciso's goal, top bins. You love to see it. What was that? 25 yards out, and
I think it was 30.
I think it was 30. Yeah, 25, 30 yards out.
I heard it was 50.
Keep it going further. Look, an unreal strike, and he couldn't have hit it more perfectly if he tried. It was an inch perfect ball, hit the top corner, and you could just see what it meant to what the Brighton fans thought of it. Limbs everywhere, love it, and he just loved every bit of it. I mean, it's definitely a lot better than the Bournemouth goal, that's for sure, where it just looked like as if everyone around him just gave up. He was under quite a fair bit of pressure. He just saw a little opening, looked up, and thought, "Yeah, I'm taking this." And I thought, "Yeah, formidable, absolutely formidable." I'm loving what I'm seeing so far. And yeah, for individual performances, Enciso gets a massive shout out because he is just he's becoming something spectacular at the moment, and I'm really enjoying it.
Yeah, yeah. So let's talk through the goals. Obviously, so we've discussed the fluke that was Chelsea's one, but Brighton, and let's not forget that obviously, as I said before, Brighton had lost Veltman and Ferguson to injury and were 1-0 down. So the cards were stacked against them. So Enciso was brought on first, which I think is quite a statement from De Zerbi to go. And Dunk said this afterwards when I chatted to him. He said that Enciso was brought on ahead of Welbeck, a seasoned Premier League player. So that's the amount of trust that he has in him. But that was also because it was so Veltman obviously went off injured, and then Enciso comes on, which is an interesting swap because you've taken off a right back and you've brought on a versatile forward. So a good statement of intent there. And so he came on, and then obviously Welbeck came on. And that was, the two of them were fantastic. In my play ratings, I gave them both 9s because I thought they were fantastic. Welbeck again popping up with a lovely header. And your man, Pascal Gross, I thought he was going to do another, Gross turn on the edge of the box from the right. And he just pinged in a lovely floated left-footed cross. And then I think Welbeck got in between Fofana and Badiashile, who's an absolute unit, by the way, nearly 6'5". So for him to out-jump him was pretty impressive. But yeah, lovely sort of cushioned header in off the post, fully deserved. And then it was just wave after wave after wave of attacks from Brighton in the second half. It was interesting. Chelsea brought on some of their sort of superstars, and João Felix and Reece James and co. But I actually thought that didn't help. They brought on 4 subs, and that I think didn't help with their shape at all. But yeah, it just felt like a disjointed team of individuals who don't really have any coherency, and just a really well-oiled, well-drilled team who fully deserved the win. And then obviously, Enciso was fantastic. That goal, it hit that so well. It was an absolutely beautiful strike. But what was interesting, just on a slight side note, so obviously after the game, I'll talk a little bit more about Enciso and why he has gone on an upward trajectory in the last few weeks. But De Zerbi, and this is the sort of mentality I think that De Zerbi has and is drilling into his players, which I think is very impressive. So he said, because everyone was waxing lyrical about Enciso, quite rightly, the match winner, fantastic performance, was such a nuisance to Chelsea's backline. But he tempered expectations by saying, Enciso is a good player. I didn't like him after the goal, though, because after the goal, he finished playing and he has to play until the end of the game. Because if we don't win, then people forget his goal, which is so true. Because, you can put in a fantastic performance, but if you put the brakes on early and you start, celebrating before you get to the goal or the try line or the end zone, whatever, it's almost meaningless. So fair play to him to say no. I'm a perfectionist. You have to keep these levels going, and that is sort of indicative of maybe the change of mindset and the mentality that is hopefully pushing Brighton onto Europe. But just a final quick point to just to say on Enciso's rise. So I spoke about. I asked De Zerbi a couple of weeks back about Enciso's improved form, because I've seen articles. Well, I've written articles in the past where like Adam Lallana was like screaming at him, and other teams were screaming at Enciso because he's such a big talent, but he wasn't making the right decisions, and he was just a bit raw, and he was not going for the right option, trying to beat the man too many times, and it was more of an individual rather than the team play. But in the last few weeks, there has been a real sort of shift, a sea change, a eureka moment, perhaps. So I asked him, and he said, what's changed? And he said, I think the last time he played for the national team, Paraguay, which was the end of last month, was very important for him. I didn't speak with the Paraguay coach, but I think it was a very important step for him. Now he is different in the training sessions and in games. Not for the goal, which is the one he's referring to when he scored his first one against Bournemouth, but the way he played against Bournemouth was different from other experience on the pitch. So it does seem as if he's matured in a matter of weeks, and I think the sort of his ability was maybe not so much in doubt, but perhaps the temperament and knowing what to do in the right situation. And I think now it seems, he was brilliant to watch at the weekend.
Yeah, he was wonderful to watch, and you got to appreciate how unhinged De Zerbi is. Like, goal of the season we just seen, and he's just gone and said, yeah, but he was crap afterwards. I love it. I love it. I love how he's just like he's almost like a perfectionist. He's a bit like, there's a bit of Bielsa in him, in the fact that, yeah, he did great then, but then afterwards he wasn't good. I wasn't impressed with him. But
a mad genius.
He is a mad genius. I love it. And look, Brighton are more excited about Enciso than they have been about Caicedo and McAllister, which I think speaks volumes. And you can see glimpses as to why that is the case. And with Enciso, yeah, we have been we've been reading and hearing about how he's frustrating in training, he's frustrating in the match, and he has frustrated a fair few fans. Just he likes to go for the individual performance, and I think that's something very much in South American culture. I think that's something that's very instilled there. It's very much, well, we call it hogging. I think they excuse it for flair. And I think that he's had to really grow up in that sense, and kind of had that word of wisdom, just saying like, look, it can't just all be about you 90% of the time. You'll have that moment of individual brilliance and people will remember that, but you've got to link up as a team. You can't just be that variable on the sidelines all the time and just have those little moments of brilliance. When you do that 9 times out of 10, you can't do that. You've got to do those moments of brilliance. The reason why individual brilliance are memorable is because they're few and far between. And we're going to be talking about Enciso's goal for a very, very long time. It's a significant moment. It secured our first win at Stamford Bridge. He's ridiculously good, and I think it kind of like sends a message to the world in the fact that he's going off to do like most of the team, they're destined to go on for bigger and better things. And I'm convinced that at least 3 players are going to go off to Champions League football in the summer. I'm still am. And I think Enciso is definitely on that same wavelength. Whether it's with us, I doubt it, but or not, I think he's going to be here for a good few seasons, and it's going to be really exciting for us. And I think, in a way, Ferguson's injury kind of opens up that opportunity for Enciso to really kind of like announce himself. And if he gets that chance at Wembley, I think he'll definitely seize the moment.
Oof, that's exciting stuff.
I know.
One other thing to add, I just want to get your thoughts on this, Tom. So before the game, there was, I guess, De Zerbi sort of hinted at changes because he said they have some problems in defense and the goalkeepers. And I didn't think too much of it because I just thought De Zerbi has said that Sanchez will play in the FA Cup against Manchester United. And Jason Steele, who I think has been very, very good since coming in, his in terms of the importance of passing out from the back, he's been fantastic. And Pep Guardiola, of all people, last week said that Brighton are the best team in the world at passing out from the back, which is some praise. So it was I was a bit surprised to see Steele wasn't playing, and he wasn't in the squad either. He was there at the ground, but he wasn't in the squad. And I believe he's got a minor injury. But I actually think, even though it's a shame for him, this is an interesting situation because Sanchez, I thought, did pretty well. He made a couple of those. In one instance, he made like 2 quick-fire saves from close range, I think from Reece James and then Mudryk in the second half, and his distribution looked pretty solid as well. There was a wonderful pass he did out from goal to Matoma at one point. So, and also I think just to get him back in the groove, because there's a chance that the bright lights of Wembley, 90,000 fans, to sort of parachute in for that game could be a bit. It could be a potential rabbit in the headlight situation. So maybe just to have a game beforehand to get him in the zone was actually maybe worked out quite well. But I do think that in general, it's a good situation to be in where you have competition for places, because I think in the past and maybe this season, that's what Sanchez needed. He needed that sort of kick up the backside because of his performances did drop off, and that's what led to Steele coming in. And I think in the past, people might have said that Steele wasn't quite a good enough keeper to dislodge Sanchez from that number 1 spot. He's a good backup keeper. He's important for the team, but maybe his abilities aren't quite at the same level. And you need people to push yourselves on, to bring the best out of you. And I think now it seems that this might be the case, and it'll be interesting to see how Sanchez performs against Man U. Touch wood, he performs well, but also what happens for Forest away in a week and a half. So it's not a bad dilemma to have. But what do you make of Sanchez's performance and that whole sort of dynamic between the 2 goalkeepers?
I was quite surprised the fact that Sanchez was selected for this match. Like you say, like De Zerbi's gone on record to say that Sanchez will play in the FA Cup semi-final. But then again, you can also counteract. They go, well, he does need the minutes behind him for that match if they're going to treat it as importantly as many of the fans are going to be treating it as such. Because I think we need to reiterate, we've got a very good chance of going into this match and securing our first FA Cup final appearance in 40 years. Whether or not we'll go on to win it, I think we all know what the answer to that is, because regardless of how we do, whoever wins is playing Man City, and they're just formidable at the moment. They are indestructible. They're an unstoppable force right now. So I think it was a very smart move.
Brighton could be the immovable object.
God, could you imagine? We'll discuss that later on in the week in the next episode. But look, Sanchez definitely needed the minutes in. I think his confidence got knocked, being dropped for Jason Steele. I think it hasn't helped his case. The fact that Steele has just been fantastic in goal, and I think he's definitely offered a few more things that De Zerbi wanted to see from Sanchez, but didn't really notice. Watching the game, I couldn't help but feel that Sanchez has definitely taken the feedback De Zerbi's given him and has used it. I think he's definitely improved from his last performance in the Brighton shirt. And I think that's given him the confidence that he's needed to push on again and fight for the number one spot. And I think we're going to see a bit more rotation going into the business end of the season because, well, we've got a fair bit of fixture congestion. We've still got 2 matches that still need to be rescheduled, I believe, off the top of my head. So we're still we're gonna be in a case where it's going to be a bit too close to call for the race for Europe in the league anyway. So I think the fact that these two are going to be on really good form either way and able to rotate, and it won't cause that much of a rift in terms of the team chemistry, is brilliant. And I think, again, that's credit to De Zerbi right there for the way he's managed that. As for everywhere else, I think the main issue is going to be in defence. It'll be interesting to see how long Veltman's going to be out for and how long it'll take Lamptey to recover. How is Lamptey still in recovery, isn't he?
Yeah, so just a quick one on that. He's been out for more than a month now. What was it? He came off injured against West Ham, which I think was the start of March. Correct me if I'm wrong. So that's 6 weeks or so now. Had a knee injury, and Lamptey is. I'm getting a bit worried just because of it. I'm hoping it's not going to be the case. The same with the hamstring issue, which obviously had a number of setbacks, and that was 10 months. And initially, that was looking at weeks. But he basically said, De Zerbi said on Friday, Lamptey's not available to play. It's bad news for us. He's important for us because he has different characteristics, different qualities to Joel Veltman. Obviously, now you don't have Lamptey or Veltman. And just a quick to add to that point, De Zerbi said after the game, I think Ferguson and Veltman cannot play for a couple of weeks. So I assume, and I guess we'll touch on it more later in the week, but I assume Pascal Gross will be at right back because he can play anywhere. But it is a concern, and I worry if because I think initially there was a point where Lamptey was he was not in the squads, but he was still part of training. And I think recently I haven't actually seen him in some of the training photos. He might have been there, just to add, but I worry that this could be a case of this is going to go on for a bit longer, which is a big shame. But yes, I mean, so aside from that, the defensive part, there are still plenty of positives because, like you said earlier, the fact that Enciso is now coming to the fore, it will be interesting to see who, if Gross does go to right back, who will come in. Will that be a midfielder, or will they go for Enciso up front maybe? The options off the bench aren't as good now because obviously of the injuries. With Sarmiento's out injured, Lallana's out injured. Good to see Jakob Moder back, by the way, in first team training. That was very nice to see after his he's had more than a year out of an ACL injury. But yes, it's that was the sole blemishes of a fantastic day in London. I just want to switch up a little bit to. So I was lucky enough to speak to Lewis Dunk after the game, and I asked him how long did it take you to get over the team to get over the that very galling loss to Tottenham when so many decisions went that way, and he said after 10 Peronis. And then he went, no, I'm joking, but he's laughing away. So I wonder how much truth is in that. But he said, after that, it was kind of, you just have to get on with it. You come in at training on the Tuesday, you focus on the next game. There's a lot of belief in this team, because they believe that they can achieve something this year. So you just have to keep on moving on and getting over it. And yeah, so it's credit to Brighton for doing that. But yeah, I mean, Tom, would you say that? How important do you think this win is in the wider context of the season?
Ooh, I think it's a fantastic response to the Spurs defeat. I think that could have easily played on their minds, the fact that we were robbed, and if we could go down the whole tinfoil hat movement, and the fact that it's the Premier League, they don't want us getting Champions League football. Like, if we could go down that rabbit hole of a cesspit on social media, then yeah, sure, we'll be feeling sorry for ourselves. But if we want to go and reach ourselves to the very top, we can't just be like, well, we've got to control our own actions here. We've got to control our own futures. The only way we're going to do that, we're not going to get this through luck. We just got to do it through hard grit and determination. So we've just got to move on. We lost. Okay, tomorrow, next game. And De Zerbi's very much instilled that mentality. Doesn't matter what happened, next game. Tomorrow, next game. Tomorrow, next game. It kind of mirrors what Sir Alex was like. I remember reading Rio Ferdinand's autobiography, and every time they won a trophy, they didn't really celebrate. Sir Alex's team talk at the end of it was like, well done, lads, now let's focus on the next one.
Yeah.
And that's why you have those kind of like managers that have that mentality. And the reason why that is
elite. Yeah.
It's elite. It's elite. It's elite. It's unhinged and, borderline psychotic. And it works. You've got to be unhinged to be at the very, very top. Like, you name me one athlete in the world of sport who isn't unhinged in the slightest, and you won't name me anyone. You can't, because even if they're the nicest guy off the court, off the pitch, off whatever, I guarantee you they are unhinged when the first ball is bowled, or when the first ball is kicked, or when the whistle blows for the first time. Something switches in them, and they're going to be winning at all costs. And that's something that De Zerbi's bringing in, and I love it. We got robbed at Spurs. Look, a blind man could see that we were absolutely robbed, and could see that the referee made several big mistakes, and it was huge mistakes. I'll give credit to Barber. Credit was where credit's due. The way he handled the interview, and when he got questioned about the decisions made, and he goes and says, "Look, we can't berate the referees. We want to help the next generation go into this, go on to become officials. We want people to encourage them to do it. But we are disappointed with what we saw in the individual performance, but we want to see the bigger picture, and the fact that we want to help the game do better. And one of those things we want to do is improve the quality in match officials." And I thought that was a very, very sensible and diplomatic approach. And look, Barber is a very business orientated man, but he's a football man at heart as well. And he's very aware of the situation, where he's aware of the good, the bad, and the ugly in football. And sadly, the ugly bit is, the quality in the refereeing. And whether you like it or not, we've got a big, big issue in terms of referees, games at grassroots level, not getting appointed referees in that case. And it just causes rifts. And there really needs to be a bigger push for this. So if you invest in this, I guarantee in 5-10 years time, we'll be talking about having some of the best referees, but we're not seeing that at the moment. So I was very pleased with how Barber handled that. But look, I was a big fan that Donkey likes Peroni. The man's got good taste. What can I say? The captain.
Maybe it's De Zerbi's Italian influence then.
I can see De Zerbi being more of a Moretti man personally. But look, I'm liking the mentality that the guys are doing, and it's exciting to see, and it's why I'm excited going ahead to this weekend. Yes, we've lost Ferguson and Veltman, two very influential players and pretty essential in terms of the spine almost. Veltman's definitely part of that spine. Ferguson's pushing for it at the tender age of 18 years old. And he's 18 and he's so good. It's ridiculous. So, but even with these two guys out, we've still got this mentality, this belief, and it's instilled in the fans as well that, you know, we've got a fantastic chance here at Wembley. United are there for the taking. It's just a case of how we're going to go about doing it. And I'll be really interested to see. I'm really excited to see what comes up on Sunday.
Yes, and you touched upon the fans. I think this is a good point to wrap up on. But I've been covering Brighton for just over 2.5 years now, and obviously a lot of that period was COVID affected. So I didn't really get the Brighton fans on full blast and on top form, but they were absolutely incredible on Saturday. They were unbelievable. I cannot remember a moment where they weren't singing. They were on top form. They were like really witty and sometimes a bit crude, but they it was fantastic. Like, for example, there was a bit when I think Chelsea's the screen got it wrong, and they said instead of Danny Welbeck coming on, it said Cody Gakpo. So the Liverpool player. So then the Brighton fans very quickly went, Cody Gakpo, he's one of our own, and that kept ringing around the stadium. So there was just so many instances of them, getting into a bit of Schadenfreude, laughing at Chelsea's expense, quite rightly, giving a lot of abuse towards Marc Cucurella, who seemed very scared to go anywhere near them when warming up. Because obviously he was a bit sort of like public enemy number one. But they were absolutely brilliant from start to finish. Quite rightly pointing out that Chelsea only sung when they were winning, which thankfully wasn't for very long. And that was. I think Brighton's away support is one of the best in the Premier League. I think it's really underrated, and they were a joy to listen to at the weekend. And hopefully, obviously, they were so unlucky. They didn't deserve that last weekend against Tottenham, but boy, did they sung their team home, and they fully deserve that. And hopefully, they can have some more success towards the business end of the season. But yes, that's my final thoughts. But thanks a lot for listening, guys. We'll be previewing the FA Cup semi-final between Brighton and Manchester United later on this week. We'll do a bumper edition, maybe go down, memory lane, and also get the view from the opposition. But until then, keep on liking and subscribing and watching teams like Brighton.